Hello and welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, we're going to be showing you how to lay out your pattern pieces and cut out your fabric pieces. So for this demonstration, you're going to need your pattern directions, which have the layout, your pattern pieces, and also some fabric. As far as the fabric is concerned, I strongly recommend that you pre-treat your fabric before you cut out your fabric pieces. That way you don't have to worry about it shrinking after your item is already made. So you're definitely going to want to consult the tag or the label that's on the fabric bolt to see how to care for your fabric and then how to treat it. The first thing I like to do is consult the layout instructions that are going to be on the first page of your directions. So before we start looking at the layout, I like looking at the key guide, which you can see up here. So it just gives us a little bit more understanding on what we're looking at when we're looking at these layout instructions. So all they're doing is just trying to tell you how to interpret these pictures over here. So the white means that you're looking at the right side of the pattern pieces. If it's polka dot, that means you're looking at the wrong side of the pattern pieces. Shaded means you're looking at the right side of the fabric, and then white means you're looking at the wrong side of the fabric. And then they have these little letters here telling you if it's the salvages or if it's on the fold. So what we're going to do is move this down so we can look at our first layout. Now, sometimes when you have more than one view, you're going to have more than one layout on the page of directions. So you just need to make sure that you're looking at the correct one. If I'm making bag or purse A, then I want to make sure that I'm looking at the layout that says this. If I scoot this over here, you can see here we have bag C. So I can go ahead and ignore everything that's not relating to my view. Also, you're going to see at the top, they're going to list the pattern pieces that you're cutting out of fabric. So this makes it handy because sometimes you'll have pattern pieces that are elastic guides or some other guide that's not going to be cut out of the fabric. So this just keeps you organized on just the specific things that you need to cut out of your fabric pieces, or you can see down here it's the lining pieces. So they're only using 1 and 2 for the lining. You'll see a couple of different setups here for bag A. The difference, of course, is that this one is for 45 and 54 inch width fabric, and this is for 60 inch width fabric. So if you check your fabric bolt and it says it's 60 inches in width, then you only need to look at this layout, not this layout up here. So we're just breaking it down, so you're only looking at a little bit of the information instead of getting overwhelmed by the whole thing. So once you know which one you're going to look at, it becomes much easier. Now sometimes they'll actually have the same width. Let me bring in another example. So this one over here, this is for a completely different pattern, but you'll see 60 inch width, 60 inch width, and it's the same view. So everything's the same, but the difference here is this one is for sizes 6 through 12 and this one's for 14 through 22. So if you see something similar to this, you just got to look to see what's different. So if I'm doing size 10, I only need to look at this layout and I can skip this one. Let's take a look at a simple layout. In this diagram here, we're just first going to focus on what the fabric is doing. So we have salvage at the top, we have fold down here at the bottom. So they're telling us the fabric is folded in half. So you have your salvages together on one side and then you have a fold at the bottom. You'll notice it's white here and then we have a sliver of the shaded on the side and on the top. So what this is telling us is the shaded, which is the right side of the fabric, is on the inside. So when you fold it in half, you have the wrong side of the fabric on the outside. And that's normal. You normally cut out your pattern pieces looking at the wrong side of the fabric. The pieces we're using in this layout is 5, 2, and 3. You have 2 of each one, but we only have 1 pattern of each number. So what you need to do is lay out your pattern piece. You can go ahead, pin it all the way around, cut it out, remove your pins, and then place it down again. So you're going to do it 2 times so that you end up with the same situation they have here. And you're going to do the same thing with 2 and number 3. You'll notice that the pattern pieces are white, so that means you're laying them down with the right side of the pattern piece up so you can see the writing. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example. Now this one looks very similar to what we were just looking at. It looks like the fabric again is folded in half with the salvages meeting at the top and the fold down here at the bottom. But there is a difference, and the difference is you'll notice it has salvages twice here at the top, while in our last example it was just once. What this means is that this fabric is not folded perfectly in half. In fact, it's just folded enough so that you're able to fit the number 1 pieces here. And it's not, this front piece is not coming completely at the top, and they're probably doing that so that there's enough room to get the number 2 piece. Now you'll notice this number 2 piece has a star next to it. From the symbols, I can tell that this means that we only need to cut out number 2 one time. So even though the fabric is folded in half, they're telling you just cut it out once. So you're going to cut out the 2 number 1 pieces, and you'll notice that it's polka dot. So that means that you're taking the pattern piece and you're flipping it down so the writing is going down towards the fabric. Again, we need it twice, so you're going to go ahead, cut it out, and then you're going to move on and cut it out again. Now this looks like the number 1 should be placed directly on the fold. To make sure, you definitely have to take a look at the patterns. And if you see something, let me just bring this in, that looks like this, the center fold, then that means it's going to be placed on the fold. So if you look at the number 1 and one edge has this, that's the edge that gets placed on the fold. For the number 2 piece, I would cut out last. So I would cut these out, then you can go ahead, unfold the fabric, and you can make sure that you have enough room to cut out the number 2 piece. Now why this is solid and this is polka dot, which means is that normally this would be placed on the fold, but because of the layout they're having you do, there's not enough room in the fabric. So what they're having you do is you're going to take your number 2 pattern, you're going to place it right side up, go ahead, pin it all the way around, use a fabric marker or chalk, trace around it. After you finish drawing an outline, you're going to take your pins, you're going to take the pattern piece, and all you're going to do is just flip it over so then it's a mirror image of that, and you can go ahead on the straight edge, you can butt those 2 sides up against each other. And then you can do the same thing. Just do an outline, remove your pattern piece, so you should have one single number 2 piece. And then you're just going to go ahead and cut that out. So you end up with one number 2, and it should look exactly like this. Let's talk about what you need to do when you're ready to start placing your patterns on your fabric and cutting out your fabric pieces. So you can see this one, I've already started to pin, and I have my fold of my fabric right here. So I'm starting to pin at the fold line. And here it says center front, and another clue on which side goes in the fold is there'll be a symbol similar to this. So it's kind of like a bracket, there's a straight edge and then 2 arrows pointing to the edge. So usually when you see that, that means that side needs to be placed on the fold. I usually start in one area and then I smooth and kind of spread out until I have the whole pattern piece covered, and I just place my pins around the perimeter. So you don't really need to do it in the middle. You just need to make sure they're trying not to get any major wrinkles in your pattern, and you're just smoothing it as you go along. Now if you're using a more delicate fabric and you're worried about using the straight pins and poking holes in it, you can use fabric weights as an alternative. If you don't have fabric weights, you can do my system, which is just to use small cans that I have. Just something to kind of weigh the pattern piece down so it's not shifting as you're trying to cut it out. And with that, what you're going to be using is a rotary cutter and not scissors. But for most fabrics like this, I'm using a cotton, you can go ahead and use straight pins, and I actually find straight pins to be the easiest method for me. When I'm pinning my pattern to the fabric, I like to make sure you first of all that you're going through all your layers, that you're placing your pin so it's going kind of parallel to the edge of the pattern. You don't want to place it so that it's going perpendicular. And I'll show you why. So you don't want to do that. First of all, going like this, you kind of cover more ground than you do this one. And if I have it like this, as I'm trying to cut it out, that pin is going to get in the way. So then I always place it like this, and I place them about an inch and a half apart. Once it's all pinned, you can go ahead and start cutting right on the edge. And don't forget, if you have any notches in your pattern, you also cut them out of your fabric. Let's look at a little bit more of a complicating setup here. So in this particular layout, this is still for bag A. we have the 45 and 54 inch setup, and then you have the 60 inch setup here. They're both similar in the fact that they've broken it up into two different sections. Let's just take this one first. So this part, I mean, they're both for this, and you're using the same pattern pieces, but what they're doing is they're cutting the fabric. So one side is our normal setup. So it's folded in half. The right side of the fabric's on the inside. The wrong side of the fabric's on the outside. You have your fold down here. Piece one is directly on the fold. Go ahead, cut it out, take out the pins, and then do another one. So you get two of the number one pieces. You're just having enough fabric for these two pieces. You're going to cut off whatever fabric you have left, and then you're going to do this setup. Now it's also folded. You have an F down here for fold, but you can see it's not folded directly in half like this one. They just take one end, fold it up, so there's just enough room to get your number 3 pieces and your number 4 pieces. Whatever you have single layer at the top, that's what you use to cut out the number 2 piece. And you can see it's the same setup that we had before. So they want you to have one single number 2 piece, but you're going to pin it, trace along the outside, flip it over so you're getting a mirror image, and the straight edges are butted up next to each other, and then you're cutting out one single piece. Number 4 is placed on the fold. It looks like number 3 is placed on the fold as well, but you need 2 of each of these. They put 3 here because there's not enough room to put it on the drawing up here. I think this is for the strap, so it's pretty small. So sometimes they just have the number off to the side, and sometimes they just have an arrow pointing to it. But since it's both number 3, they put it down here. So I'd cut one number 3 and then another number 3, and the same thing with the 4 pieces. This is the same thing. It looks complicating, but it's not. So for this one, it's the same thing here. They just take one end, fold it up, just so you have enough room to fit your number 1 pieces. And then you're going to have the single layer up here because it's not folded in half, and you do your number 2 piece up here. Here's our number 3 piece placed on the fold, and there's 2 of them. And then whatever's left over, you cut it off. You take the leftover piece, you fold it directly in half, and then they have the number 4 piece. Now you need to get 2 number 4s on the fold, and it looks like what they're telling you is there's not enough to place this on the fold and be able to get 2 of them. So what they're doing is just like the number 2 piece, where on the end here next to the selvage, they pin it, trace around it, and then flip it. So you take it and you flip it over and you butt up the straight edges next to each other. So you end up with one single number 4 piece like it was placed on the fold, but because this is folded directly in half, you end up getting 2 of them, and that's what you need. So we're going to just quickly show you a layout of what this would kind of look like, and I'm going to show it for this. Here we have something similar to the setup we were just looking at on paper. Now obviously it can't be exactly the same because we're using some of the pieces twice. But here we have piece number 3, and I just need to make sure I cut 2. You can see I have it on the fold here. So after I pin it, cut it out, I'm just going to take it, shift it over, and then do it again. So that would be okay for piece number 3. And you can see you want to have your fabric all laid out and smooth as possible. So it's nice if you kind of have a large place to work. I'm working on a fairly large table. If you don't have a table, then if possible, I guess do it on the kitchen floor. You just want to make sure that the fabric can be laid out flat, so you're cutting everything as neatly as possible. Here we have piece number 1, and like the layout showed, the pattern piece was polka dot, which means it's flipped. So the right side of the pattern is face down towards the fabric, and you can see that because all my writing is backwards. Up at the top here, we have piece number 2. So I would just pin around it, trace, you can just trace the curved parts, and then the middle part here. And then what I would do is flip it over so it's backwards like the number 1, and these sides are meeting up. So then I can end up getting one large number 2 piece. Once I finish doing this one, I would do the same thing as I did with number 3, which means I would just shift it out over so I can cut another one on the fold. Let's take a look at one more example of a pattern layout. Now this one's a little bit different than what we were looking at before. and we're going to be looking at this one right here, and you'll notice it has this symbol right here, which means it has a special note in the layout. You'll notice there is no F, so although it looks like it's folded in half, it is actually not folded in half. In fact, it is two pieces that are laid right on top of each other, and you have your salvages at the top and at the bottom. So I'm going to show you exactly how you fold your fabric in order to get a situation like this so you can lay out your pattern pieces accordingly. This is the standard fabric layout, and if you buy it at the fabric store or folded on a bolt, this is how it normally comes. You have your salvages both meeting on one side and you have a fold on the opposite side. So if I was to open this up, I have a salvage here and then I have a salvage here. They're both meeting in the same place. You have your raw edge on this side and then you have a raw edge on the other side as well. But to do this alternative fabric layout, what you're going to do, you're going to open it up. You're going to take one raw edge and you're going to fold it directly in half so that the raw edges meet. So I'm going to take this and fold it to the other raw edge. In this new layout, what you're going to have is both the raw edges are together on one side and on the opposite side you have a fold. You have salvages at the top and at the bottom, which you can't see because this is fairly large, so it's not all on camera. And both of the salvages, top and bottom, they're folded in half. You're then going to take your scissors and you're going to cut right on the fold line here. So you end up with two equal pieces that are the size of this. You have your salvages at top and bottom and raw edges at the sides. So this is going to be your new layout with the example that we just looked at. Just make sure if you're working with fabric that has nap, such as velvet or corduroy, both pieces of the fabric with the nap is going in the same direction. Following the pattern layout directions are important for two big reasons. Number one, the pattern companies are showing you how they suggest you lay out your pattern pieces so you can get them all to fit in the amount of fabric that they ask you to get. The second and the most important reason is because of the grain line rules. Now this is important, especially if you're working with fabric that has nap, such as corduroy or velvet. But I also follow these rules even if I'm working with fabric that does not have a visible nap. I just follow it no matter what, and then I never run into any issues. So if you're looking at your pattern pieces, you'll find this on most pattern pieces, but especially with garment pattern pieces. You'll see a line with an arrow and it should say grain line. This line should always be parallel to either the edge of the salvages or the edge of the fold line. So even if the pattern piece seems like it's straight, it's not straight how they want it to be because this one needs to be cut on the bias. So I'm going to look at this line right here and I'm going to turn it until it is going straight and parallel with the edge of my salvage. If you need to, go ahead and use a ruler or a tape measure and I can measure this side, see what that measurement is, and then do the same thing on this side as well. Once this line is straight, go ahead and pin it into place. What they're telling you is you just can't take your pattern pieces and just place them willy-nilly wherever you want, because in this particular case, now I'm breaking the grain line rule. This line is going this way and this one is kind of going slanted. Especially if you're using a fabric with nap, once you sew these two pieces together and you cut it out like this, what tends to happen is once they're stitched together, it'll look like they're two different shades of color. It doesn't matter if it's the same fabric, they'll still look like they were cut from two different fabrics. So that's why you always follow this rule. So in this particular case, what I need to do is I'm actually going to turn it this way, is I just need to do the same thing where I'm making sure that it's going straight across so it's going parallel to the edge. And it doesn't need to be on the same level. I can move this down if I need to, just as long as they're both going in the same direction. So once you have all your pattern pieces cut out, the next step then of course is to be marking your fabric pieces. So we suggest you watch that tutorial of ours next. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 150 sewing video tutorials. New tutorials are released regularly, so make sure to subscribe to be notified of the next release. Thanks for watching!